So if you're slacking off, don't expect your employer to pony up. But those rules, they don't apply for most union teachers. In fact, teachers' unions in Florida are just the latest fighting against merit-based pay. They don't want salaries tied to performance. The Scottie Hughes, who says that this is textbook example of how just out of touch the unions are. Joining us, Sasha Burns and Gary Kaufbaum as well. We're going to start with you, Scottie. You know, for a lot of people, it's just merit pay seems like the basis of, you know, work. We sort of work, we're measured by our work, and then we get paid by how well we do that work.
Well, I love it. This is the great example of it doesn't matter what you do, what you teach, how well you teach, or if you even show up. As long as you have tenure, you get to keep your job. And this is the only place in America that I think this works, besides the federal government, unfortunately, is in our education system.
But it's even more than just tenure, right? I mean, we're talking about, you know, teachers who are saying you can't evaluate our performance based on how kids do on tests. You can't base it on this. You can't base it on that. What do we base it on? How do we pay you? How do we encourage you? And how do we get a better school system when everyone does agree that we have a really bad one right now?
Well, this just shows that we've had a track record of education not making sense. So, of course, why would teachers expect to get paid off of merit if their mothers, their grandmothers, and since the beginning of time, they've never had that issue? Unfortunately, teachers don't live in the real world. If we judged every other business like we've held with our education system, no wonder why this country's going bankrupt.
Sasha, you know, I've got to ask, this seems very, very logical. I mean, it seems like maybe Logic 101, something we start to understand in the third grade. Certainly our students understand it earlier than that because they are sort of rewarded based on merit, aren't they?
Well, you know, Charles, I don't get paid by Fox, so I'm not sure what that says about my merits. But going to teachers,
okay.
Good to see you. Going to teachers, absolutely. This is one of those legislative initiatives that in theory, in logic, absolutely makes sense. But in application, you need to be a little careful. For example, with teachers, it's not about your work product or my work product. It's also about the students. Now, what they're talking about basing this merit pay or tenure on is how students do on these standardized tests, right? Okay, fine. But the tests are only based on 40% of the students' subjects. So if you're the gym teacher, your subject is not on these tests, right? So you're being judged on how you are as a teacher for the student's reading level. No, absolutely.
All right.
I mean, that's what it's being based on.
Okay, you know what? I want to go to Gary because right now this one argument, it's been across the country, but this one happens to be in Florida, and you're down there. And I think that kind of stuff can be worked out. You know, you start with the student, you say, okay, the kid takes an aptitude test. We see the base where the kid starts from, Gary. Then we can judge how well the kid does from there and sort of apply that to the teacher's salary. What's wrong with that?
I think that's perfect. Look, accountability is the key word. There has not been any accountability, and throughout the country, costs are high, results are low. That has to be changed. And in the real world, in your world, in my world, Charles, we are basically looked at and we're rated on how good we are, and we get promoted, we make more, or we get demoted and make less if we do not do a good job. How do you measure that? If you're a teacher, it's got to be based on something. Grades, maybe something else along with it. Try something, anything, just show some accountability and not just keep paying people to fail going forward.
And Sasha, I think, isn't that something we all can agree on? There's a serious, serious problem. And it feels like, really, to be quite frank with you, that the teachers, their power, their job security always comes before the kids. And at some point, everyone's got to be honest about that.
But Charles, I'm not at all disagreeing on the idea of being paid based on merit. What I'm saying is if you don't have any control, because you're an art teacher, a history teacher, 60% of the teachers that we're talking about, if you have no control on what their reading level is because you teach them gym, then that doesn't make sense. So what they're doing is putting a hold on it. Does this kind of pay for performance make sense? Do we need to figure out how to judge a teacher because you're in their classroom, or what you're saying on their grades, but not necessarily on a test of the reading level when you don't teach them reading?
All right, beam me up, Scottie. You tell me what's wrong with that.
Well, here's the deal. There's going to be special exceptions based on what they actually teach. There's no doubt. There's going to be categories. But let's face it.
So the gym teacher won't be responsible for the math
No,
scores.
they're going to have, it's obviously, there's going to be ways that they're going to be able to judge based on other things. But let's look at it. The reason why we're having this conversation is because unions have corrupted our education system. They have broken it, and they're causing our local governments and our school systems to go bankrupt. Therefore, even teachers that are being paid on average $74,000, as we're seeing in Chicago, are bankrupting those cities, and the result is they're having to shut down 54 schools. That is the reason why we're having this conversation, because not only are teachers not producing in the classroom, they're bankrupting our country in many areas.
Sasha, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, you can have an issue with the teachers union, but, you know, to make blanket statements about teachers are lousy or they're not performing or doing their jobs. I mean, you know, I had a lot of great teachers.
I guess so, Sasha. Let me just before I switch it to you, Gary, isn't that what we're talking about, though, Gary, where great teachers have a chance to elevate themselves, to be seen that they're great because it will be shown in the work. My great teachers, I would have done, you know, they would have seen great grades from me and they would have reflected on them. Go ahead, Gary.
That is a great point. There are great teachers out there. There are good teachers out there, but there's also crappy teachers out there, and we have to ferret them out if they're not getting the job done. And there's got to be some way, some measuring stick. Now, in Florida, there is going to be more specificity on who gets what and who's graded on what, and no longer you're a teacher and you get graded on other teacher students. So they are moving towards that, and I think it will work. But the most important thing, if teachers know they're being looked at a little more closely with a little bit with a little bigger a microscope, they're apt to be worked that much harder to make things better going forward. It's called accountability.
It's called accountability, and we want to put great teachers on a pedestal. Guys, you were great.